Hello and welcome to the Scientology Money Project, part of the larger SPTV network. And we're part of the, also part of the Cult Investigative Agency. The Cult Investigative Agency, the other CIA. So I want to welcome everyone. Wow. Welcome everyone. Unstable Datum, I'm glad to see you here. Now, Unstable Datum wants to know about, I await the release of the key fob to eternity, which will finally free us from Hubbard's false reality and his hidden games on the fourth dynamic. The key fob to eternity. It's here. Scientology will never get it. They have a front porch to infinity, but it got destroyed in Katrina, so they don't really have anything. Psych Sauce, welcome. Welcome, Denise. Mary, good to see you here, Mary Craig Smith. And I had a slight delay only in uploading something. Seems like any social media contacts are not going well for David Miscavige and Church of Scientology. No, they're not. In fact, that's, boy, there's some stuff going down. I'm not at liberty to speak about now, but man, it's not going well for the church. Mao was way more OT than we, Dave. OT, if you like, operating terrorist. Yeah, no kidding. He would have been an operating terrorist. Actually, I think he is. David Miscavige never calls me. He's never actually called me. I just always wanted to chat with him. Like, hey, what's going up with you, Funky? And I always, Funky B. I always like they're building death camps for our dreams. That's such a great line. I feel like it's so made for cults. They're building death camps for our dreams. It sounds like you could read it at an Amway meeting, and it's like, because in Amway, when you're building your downline, if you like don't get on board, and you tell someone, hey, you're going to lose money in Amway or whatever, they say, stop being a dream stealer. Stop being a dream stealer. You're trying to build death camps for my dreams. And that's the power of language. And Scientology excels at language, certainly. Wayne's World, it's not going good for the church. I'm happy. Me too. And I use a, let me scroll here. I want to get to the comments. Brenda, oh, there it is. Okay. Hello, I reached my favorite class for Scientology. Yay. Well, thank you. And so we're going to jump into it. This is about social engineering, and it's part of what's going on. Social engineering we're going to discuss today, and I want to put forth a new thesis. I am basically working on an academic paper about describing Scientology correctly as a social engineering project. So welcome, Joe Gerst. Hi, Jeff in chat. So we're all here. Good to see you, Joe. So I wanted to, I did this shoop, and it's it's an update of one of my older shoops I did. And I like the idea of a Scientology as a kind of a Chinese communist, People's Republic, except worse, because it has First Amendment religious protections, because that's part of the social engineering. And so I have Chairman Dave, that's Chairman Dave, and his basically mind-controlled acquiescent sycophants and sadistic operatives, and so we are all susceptible to social engineering. Yes, that's part of it, Mary. It really, truly is. We're all susceptible to it. One form of it that I know, the older I get, the more I realize I grew up with all the advertising on television. That's social engineering. I mean, the boomers were probably the first generation to be the boomers were probably the first generation, because we grew up with television, to really be social engineered. I mean, really there were just, advertising's always been horrible, and then when it reached television, it got even worse. Um, if you know how social works, you know how you can be worked over. True, correct. Definite trouble source. Wow, not a. I like this. I like this dog. Um, Not a potential trouble source, but a definite trouble source. You know what? That is so good. I wonder why Hubbard never thought of that. That is a really good thing. Uh, I love where this is going. Hold on, I have to. My watch. I was out in the field. This is my daily wear, and the bracelet was damaged. I was trying to do something, and my watch got caught. I was doing PI stuff, and my watch got caught, and now I think I have to take it in to get fixed. So the clasp is a little bit damaged. Anyway, I like that definite trouble source, because a potential trouble source is like, we're going to keep an eye on you, but a definite trouble source, that is genius. I think we should start calling people definite trouble sources. I know we are here on the channel, on the Scientology Money Project. Hubbard's mushroom tech, keep them in the dark and feed them BS. The Aristocat. Oh, I like it. Welcome to the show, Aristocat. Yep, I grew up on Fruit Loops and Lies, 63 never end. Well, welcome. I grew up on Fruit Loop and Fruit. Excuse me. I grew up on Fruit Loops and Lies. That's brilliant. That could be a book about failed boomerism. I grew up on Fruit Loops and Lies. And speaking of TV shows, I often tell people that Karen, my lovely wife, Karen, and I are like Green Acres. Karen grew up in London, and she was born in Calcutta because her father was an executive and traveled. But she grew up in London, went to a French school, has traveled all over the world. My family had a ranch up in Calderville, California. I spent summers at, and I could just live on a ranch, or I could live out in the desert. And Karen's very sophisticated, and I was born in Linwood, lower income, blue class. So we're like Edie, and we're like so we're like Green Acres, and Zsa and Eddie, and she didn't go by Zsa, but so we could be like that. I've been watching so much stuff on China lately. I've forgotten. I think it's Scientology. Yeah, yeah. Pam, I've been watching every day. I watch Peter Zion, the geopolitical analyst. He's brilliant. Were you jumping on a fence? I don't have to answer that, and I won't. But at my age, I was doing something I shouldn't have. I should have hired some young person to do it. But sometimes I wish I could tell you about it. I'm working on something that's it's an interesting case, but it's kind of like I had to go find something out for myself, and I call Osa La Osa Nostra. Oh, I like that, Amy. That's perfect marketing, La Osa Nostra. I think we should adopt that, La Osa Nostra. We have La Nosa Ostra agents. Okay, so jumping back to Chairman Mao and social engineering. Social engineering, this is a slide off the internet. It is the art of human manipulation. It is as old as humanity itself, because humans have been manipulating each other, I guess, since the Garden of Eden, or even before that, if we go into the if we go into the Bible, certainly. So there was a pre-Adamic. There was a pre-Adamic world, a world prior to Adam and Eve, if you go down that path. So there's been manipulation. Even Lucifer, before he became the devil, his throne was above the kingdom of God, and he wanted to exalt his throne above God's kingdom. We read in the Holy Writ. And so Lucifer used social engineering to convince 1/3 of the angels to participate in a rebellion against God. And there was the war in heaven, and they were cast down into the realms of hell. And then, the rest of the story with Adam and Eve and the talking snake. I preferred Petticoat Junction. The implication was the girls were skinny dipping in the water tower. Yeah. Hi, Benita. Good evening. Welcome to see those. They're my fab glasses. They're like just a look I've developed. It's branding. Groupthink comes to mind. Amy, I have to ask the group if they agree. What do you think groupthink? Oh, no, no, making a joke. Okay, so anyway, social engineering, really the top level definition. Social engineering is the act of manipulating people into divulging sensitive information or performing acts that compromise security. And of course, the goal is to obtain sensitive information, unauthorized access, or commit fraud. But I suggest it's much broader than that. Social engineering is certainly something in the digital world online, but social engineering is much broader than that. And that's part of why I want to reconceptualize the Church of Scientology altogether as a social engineering organization, and it has been so since 1953. That's my argument. That's my thesis of a paper I want to work on, and I am working on. Social engineering operatives use a variety of techniques to engage in espionage. That's really what social engineering is. It's espionage. And they use it to obtain confidential and secret information from individuals and organizations. The information obtained can be used for whatever purposes state actors, criminal organizations, and other covert operators seek to achieve. Now, this is, okay, now what I'm showing you here, this I took right out of Wiki, and in the yellow italicized is what I would add, because I think that religion should be rethought altogether as a form of social engineering, because that's fundamentally what a lot of it is. A lot of religion is manipulation, and in particular, Scientology. So I want to read this. The yellow part is what I added. These are my suggested changes. Espionage, spying, or intelligence gathering is the act of obtaining secret or confidential information. A person who commits espionage is called an espionage agent spy, or can also be called a cleric or occult operative. Any individual or spy ring in the service of a government, a company, criminal organization, independent or operation, or a religious or cultic organization can commit espionage. Now, we know that religious organizations, the Catholic Church in particular, and Opus Dei, well, even the Jesuits have engaged in espionage. And we know, for example, as part of the rat line, the Nazis after World War II worked with the Catholic Church to obtain false passports to get Nazi war criminals down to South America. And even here in America, Operation Paperclip, which could be certainly controversial, where we denazified top German scientists to work in our space program, which was really a cover to put nuclear warheads on rockets. So religion, Lucifer never studied people's war, a defeated foe from day one. Well, that takes us down somewhere I want to never go. Basically, if the God of the Bible had omniscience, then if the God of the Bible had omniscience, then Yahweh knew that Lucifer would rebel and be cast down. And that takes us into Milton's Paradise Lost. And in that, I spent a college semester. One of my classes was the entire semester was Milton's Paradise Lost. And in that, he proposes what's called the Felix Culpa, which is Latin for the fortunate fall. And he argued that it was fortunate that we fell, so that people could come to the salvationary knowledge of Jesus Christ. But if you look at it, that comes with hell and eternal damnation. So one of my problems why I left the church is what benefit could God possibly gain having omniscience and foreknowledge to create people whom he was knowingly going to send to hell for all of eternity to endure conscious eternal torment? So if grandma lived 80 years, but she's facing trillions and trillions and trillions, just an infinite number of conscious eternal torment, then that God would be horrible. That's one of the reasons I left the church. I couldn't get that. But listen, as a form of social engineering, the concept of hell, or even in Scientology, that you would be implanted between lives and come back and be doomed to be a rock floating in the blackness of space, or you would be implanted and come back to some horrific existence on Earth. It's all the same. So I don't want to get into, see, this is my tendency. It's so easy for me to get into metaphysics. That's why I'm starting my other channel and I'm working on it. But getting back to it, I would like to reconceptualize religion in social engineering terms, because so much of what you see in religion is social engineering. It's a violation of trust. It's salvation, but it always comes with a hook invariably, where you must commit something, you must give information, you must give money, you must give something. And so I'd like to, and Scientology is the worst example. Worst example. Okay, this is my text. One main from the paper I'm working on, and I'm going to present it to a private organization. Call it a think tank I belong to. One main goal of social engineering is to gain the victim's trust. This can be done by lying, indoctrination, impersonation, threats, urgency, and the use of many other psychological warfare and disinformation techniques. Now, Scientology has employed psychological warfare and disinformation techniques, and it does it internally and externally. And so I want to look at that again. And so look at these elements of Scientology. And the other groups as well, but we're focusing on Scientology here because why? We're the Scientology Money Project. But the work can certainly go beyond Scientology, and it can cover other groups like the Latter-day Saints, Baha'i, the Muslim world, certainly, the Hindus, Buddhists. Every religious group has troubles, and it has its bad actors and the agendas and things. So lying, indoctrination, impersonation, threats, urgency. Early Scientology, you don't see it so much anymore, but mid-70s, let's call it mid-70s Scientology, 50s through mid-70s, 80s. Hubbard once said that, the planet was going to be gone by the year 2000, I believe. Janice Grady would know the number. And some of the other old timers, like Unstable Datum, if you can hop on with a comment. Hubbard said that the end of the world was coming. And so for the need for planetary clearing was more urgent than ever, more urgent than ever. And every appeal, it's like when you watch televangelists, I was growing up and I would watch televangelists. And one of them was Ernest Angley. If you remember Ernest Angley, he died at age 100. That's a fascinating guy. He used to do this appeal, and at late night TV, I'd watch him, and he'd say, "Madam, sir, young person, homosexual, you need the Lord. You could die tonight, and do you have the assurance you'd go to heaven?" And that's a good Ernest Angley. And when in his 90s, Ernest was accused of engaging, being a closeted gay man and hitting on a young man in his church. In his 90s, that guy was like, that old boy was hornier than a two-peckered billy goat. I tell you, how's that for a South? That boy's hornier than a two-peckered billy goat. That old Ernest Angley. He was like a pervert in his 90s. Man, testosterone still banging around that guy's body. He died. He owned a 747 that he used for his crusades. He bought a 747, but it was a special, shorter, long distance one. And it sat at the airport because as Ernest got older, he didn't fly around in his short or his long haul 747. So when the Lord took him to glory, um, when the Lord took Ernest Angley to glory, uh, that 747, there weren't a lot of these long haul 747s around, and the ministry sold that for some money. Um, this is something I'm going to get into another show. Maybe have you read John Atack's essay on Scientology being, or at least acting like an intelligence agency? Oh yeah, and it's not original to John. I have read his work. It is an intelligence agency. Office of Special Affairs is very much. Is it a now? Here's what I would say, Adam. Scientology's Office of Special Affairs and its precursor, the Guardian's Office, they were intelligence agencies. The question is, are they good intelligence agencies? My answer is no, they're not very good. They're not very good. They can be outplayed. And part of it, they can be outplayed by if you understand that their paranoia is reflexive, they're so, and I shouldn't give away some of my tradecraft. I won't. In fact, Scientology is very reflexive and predictable in certain ways. And so it has vulnerabilities that are well known in certain circles. Um, I am not an ex-Scientologist. I don't know the date. Really? Oh, I thought you were. Some of the stuff you said, and I don't mean this in any way to trifle with you. I thought you were, like uh, a Guardians era guy, you know, or woman. I don't know. I didn't know that. Oh, that's surprising because you're so conversant in the field. Very good. Well, you're very conversant, I should say. You have some inside baseball stuff. Okay, so let's go back to the intelligence agency. Um, so, for our purposes, espionage and social engineering are synonymous terms. And this is part of what I'm working on. So, spying, and that includes tradecraft, a lot of forms of tradecraft. Impersonation and intelligence gathering are part of espionage. Our thesis is that Scientology uses a sophisticated program of social engineering and impersonates a church and a religion. So I forgot a word. I'll pick up that. But our thesis, meaning mine, is that Scientology uses a sophisticated program of social engineering to impersonate a church and a religion. So I just got a typo in there. You're seeing the draft. Now, people ask me if Scientology is, if it's got this complex intelligence agency, which is not a good intelligence agency, as far as my opinion, as far as intelligence agencies go, OSA is not a good intelligence agency. In fact, it's highly reliant upon outside uh, private investigation firms, for example, Talon, and other firms. It's reliant upon private investigators. So it doesn't have a lot of in-house talent. And Hubbard's principles of intelligence are outdated, but it's effective um, in the short range. But for example, it couldn't get South Park shut down. When South Park, the famous South Park episode came out in 2005, 2006, it couldn't get it shut down. So a fail there. It couldn't stop Anonymous. In fact, it couldn't predict Anonymous. So there's a lot of things it's not good at. OSA is good internally and on the periphery of people who left the church. So it has a limited range. And, but it's still, people say, what is Scientology's real purpose? The high level purpose of Scientology can be found in the Sea Org contract. And let's go to that. I've zoomed it up here and it's not that legible, but this is the high level purpose of Scientology. Okay, so it says, second paragraph we want. But let's just read this is what you sign on the Sea Org contract. It's a pledge. I fill in your name. Okay, so do hereby agree. So you have to agree. That's giving your consent. I fill in your name. Do hereby agree to the religious commitment of membership in the Sea Organization and dedicate myself to achieving the goal shared by Sea Org members, which is to bring about spiritual freedom of all beings through the application of LRH's technology. Okay, so we note it's to bring about the spiritual freedom of all beings. And yet, there is a massive and glaring contradiction in the next sentence to which you're pledging yourself if you were to go into the Sea Org member. Being of sound mind, and that's in itself a question. If you are going to go into the Sea Org, are you really of sound mind? I mean, if you're going to make, 40 cents an hour and sleep in a bunk bed and sleep deprivation, all the horror, are you really of sound mind? Maybe not, but you're also maybe tragically unaware of what you're getting yourself into, which is so often the case. But nevertheless, we'll continue the charade. Being of sound mind, I do fully realize and agree to abide by the purpose shared by Sea Org members, which is to get ethics in on this planet and the universe, and fully and without reservation subscribe to the to Sea Org or to Sea Organization discipline, mores, and conditions, and pledge to abide by them. Now, screaming in all caps, the purpose of the Sea Org, the shared purpose, is to get ethics in on this planet and the universe. So, what the goal of Scientology is at the highest level is world domination. And not just of this planet, but of this universe. So, you got to get your mind around Scientology's goal is world domination. It's nothing less than world domination. That's what Scientology's goal is. And it's to get Scientology's ethics in on this planet. So Hubbard's system of ethics, which means some horrific things that go on, your goal is to, for the highest good, as they call it, is to get ethics in on this planet. And you begin by getting ethics in on yourself and on others in Scientology. So, but ethics is redefined. Yes, exactly, Mary. It's redefined. So this is, again, propaganda by redefinition of words. It's to get Scientology fascism in order to dominate the planet. And you're going to use whatever means you have to. And that's where social engineering comes in as a mechanism to control the world. Look, you might scoff at Scientology wanting to control the world, but don't. Hubbard said, quote, incredulity is one of our greatest weapons. If people thought we in Scientology were serious, we wouldn't have gotten this far, unquote. So incredulity. Hubbard laughed when people thought of them as a stupid cult because that allowed him cover, like, think we're a cult, but at the end of the day, we're going to fuck over, and they're going to take on the FBI, the IRS. They even trashed the CIA, and I'm going to cover that in a future article. They went on a PR warfare campaign against the CIA. That's covered by the Washington Post. So anyway, that's the high-level purpose of the Church of Scientology, is global domination. And not just global domination, but universal domination, to dominate the entire universe. How they propose to dominate the universe, you have to understand that they're a spiritual organization. So when L. Ron Hubbard went to Target 2, yes, this is very good. Get ethics in on this planet, control system alert. Yeah, that's good. Oh, hi, Grandma Matilda. Welcome. I watched Pinky and the Brain. World domination doesn't work. Well, true. And but Scientology believes it does. And certainly other people throughout the world, through history, have believed that they could dominate the world. And this is one thing I like about Peter Zion, is that he sees globalism breaking apart and collapsing, the post-World War II globalism. So this is an interesting talk. When other religions religion crazies talk about world domination. They end up toast. How come this lot walk free? Well, I'll just say, Trendy Wendy, you pose a great question, but um, to repeat uh, something I said many times is an old saying, it's not mine. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. So this group is, getting away with a lot of stuff, but it's also keeping to shrink down. Um, I don't have. Do I have my Bible nearby? Let me see. Do I have my Bible to hand? Let me check to see if I have my Bible. Um, oh, no, I don't have my Bible near to hand. I have All About Radiation. I have Confessions of a Confessions Confessions of a Scientologist Pothead by Liz Gale, which is a great book. And I did a podcast with her. I have to retrieve it from some software that ate it, and I'll have it up. I called this about it. Confessions of a Scientologist Pothead. Great book by Liz Gale. But I don't have my Bible. But what I wanted to say is in the Pauline Diktat, as I call it, he said that Christians were to bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. And so there's a world, certainly world domination inherent in Christianity and in Islam. The monotheistic traditions, all Judaism, Christianity, Islam, all contemplate world domination. So in that respect, Scientology is no different, except it proposes to do it not through a salvationary method or the idea of conquest and conversion. And that's really the idea of Inquisition, or going earlier, the idea of the Crusades, or of even modern Islamic terrorism to achieve world domination. So, and that's not even counting the communist system of nuclear threat. So world domination. I couldn't agree more. Social engineering is the mission of human spiritual destruction. It is. It really is, especially in this context. So don't take Hubbard carefully. He says incredulity is our greatest weapon. So Scientology has destroyed so many people, especially children. And part of what you have to get your mind around is that Scientology does not care who it destroys. It doesn't care if it destroys your childhood, your family, your finances, anything. It doesn't care. If you knew how profoundly Scientology does not care, if it destroys people, groups, organizations, it doesn't care if it destroys things. It doesn't care. You have to get how profoundly this group is out to conquer the world through L. Ron Hubbard's technology. I did an interview, excuse me, with the late Bill Franks. I did 3 or 4. And Bill Franks told me that when he was on the ship, Hubbard late at night would call Bill Franks and John Horowitz up to his cabin, and they would talk. They would talk late into the night, and Hubbard just excessively had to talk. And he would tell Bill Franks and John Horowitz that he had an unquenchable lust for money and power. He would just say, I can't get enough money or power. And the interesting thing is when Bill Franks and John Horowitz went up to talk to him, Ron Hubbard wasn't source. He was just Ron. He had to let his hair down. He just had to talk. But he talked about how he couldn't get enough money or power. And when you're after the acquisition of money and power, you don't care who you destroy. You just don't care who you destroy. It's meaningless. Other people are not real to you. only you are real to you. Hubbard was only real to himself, and he saw it as his right to destroy other people, and he did it through ethics and punishment and cruelty, locking children in chain lockers on the Apollo, Christ's sake. Grandma Matilda, 2 Corinthians 10:5, but that was talking about personal thoughts, not other people. Well, I would be glad to debate you on that, Grandma Matilda. Um, I understand that verse as well, and I respectfully disagree, because if you go on and read the rest of it, and let me just say, I don't want to get in debate. I respectfully disagree, Grandma Matilda. In fact, if we could get to Core 10.5, we'll leave that to the side. But if you look at the Pauline epistles carefully, and I've been a really careful student of the Pauline epistles and the Gospels, and that's something. I'll just say having gone to Christian university and studied formally and way beyond what I was called to, and getting into the Greek, the idea of world domination, it culminates in the book of Revelation, the book of the Revelation of St. John the Divine. So I don't want to get here, and I respect what you believe, and I think I understand it, but let's do Christianity and Scientology on another show. I would very much like to have your comments. You can email me at jeffreyaugustine@gmail.com. So anyway, we are respecting the beliefs of others here. I'm just expressing my opinion, and I respect your right to disagree with it. And because people of good faith can disagree. And so anyway, the religious commitment in the CR calls that you're out to basically put in Scientology ethics, meaning L. Ron Hubbard's will, on this planet, in this universe, without reservation. And therefore, you commit yourself to this organization for the next billion years. That means you will reincarnate for a billion years. And so our thesis, again, meaning mine, is that Scientology, since its incorporation as a church on December 18, 1953, is fundamentally a covert social engineering organization which impersonates a psychotherapeutic religious system. Scientology's social engineering organization has external and internal components. So I highlight the psychotherapeutic religious system. Dianetics began, and this is why I've been doing a progressive series of podcasts they build on each other. And if you've been watching them, Hubbard began Dianetics as it was Freudian psychotherapy using hypnotic regression, and that failed. And also, one thing I want to note, Hubbard believed with Dianetics that life began at conception. There were no past lives. And the goal of Dianetics was to erase all your engrams in your reactive mind and become a clear, where you'd have perfect memory, recall, high IQ. You would have it all going on. You would just be this sexy, spiritual super being. But what there was not in Dianetics, there was not exteriorization. I covered on my last podcast that the goal of Scientology, the sunum bonum, the highest good you can attain as a Scientologist, is exteriorization. That is, you could leave your body at will and you would still control it. So it's almost like you were this detached orb of energy. And I read someone writing today that they were like a detached orb of energy larger than their body, but they could mechanically operate their body from a distance via a telepathic mechanism that they don't define or specify how that works, but you are floating outside your body but controlling it. Which, if the body were that bad, why don't you just leave it? Why don't you just have the body die if you're that powerful? It's like, if the body's that much of a goddamn burden and drop it. I mean, really, this is what I don't get about Scientology. Scientology talks about survival. L. Ron Hubbard says survival is the highest thing. But then they want to leave their bodies because the body's a burden with all its appetites and aches and pains and wants and needs and all the stuff we need. Like I got up this morning and I drink iced tea. I don't like coffee. It's like coffee just doesn't agree with me. Maybe it's a thing on a past life where I drown in a vat of coffee, something like that. I don't like coffee. So I drink tea. And I woke up this morning and then I got this thing I have to do. There's like a time pressure to get something done. It's like, oh man. And then I had to do some other stuff. How it is, you wake up, you want to have a nice Sunday, but it's like, it's busy. And what, Brandana? Oh, no, there was no ectoplasm. No. Ectoplasm's an older word. When I was talking about that OT who wrote, he was like an orb of energy. I thought of the old 19th century word ectoplasm, the ectoplasm, like the spiritual essence or a ghost. Anyway, so I got a bunch of stuff today. This is the usual, and nothing I can't handle. Karen supports me like, it's sort of like, but I liked it. I welcomed it. It's good. It's good to work. So, but my point to Scientologists, if the whole goal of Scientology is to go exterior, then why do you want to dominate the world? Like, it doesn't make sense. If you want world domination, then you need a body to be in, and you need an army, and you need all these psychic OTs to dominate the world. And but yet you want to go exterior. So there's a poster at ESMB, Scientology Member Board, Redux, ESMB, great board, named Hell of a Hoax. And that guy is so witty. And he specified a lot that said that it's kind of a take on Newton. For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Hell of a Hoax writes that for everything Hubbard wrote, there's something that contradicts it. It's like, so if you want to like go exterior and leave the body and go travel to Target 2 to be with Ron, or go to the moon, or wherever you want to go, because there is a process in early Scientology. They don't talk about it anymore, but there was a process called the Grand Tour, where Hubbard said when you went exterior, took the Grand Tour and you went to the moon and then the sun and then some other places, and you took the Grand Tour of the local. I guess if you remember my last podcast to talk about the Espionage star system, to which Hubbard said we belong, this quarter of the universe belongs to us. I guess you'd transit the Espionage. But the whole point is, if you want to be exterior, then be exterior. But why would you want to dominate the world if the world sucks? Here's the thing. Follow me. If the Earth is a prison planet and it's so bad, then why do you want to clear it? Why don't you just go to some other pleasure world, as they call it in Buddhism? Go to some other planet. If this is a prison planet and you can go exterior as an OT, then why don't you just leave? Why do you want to dominate a prison planet? How can you clear a prison planet if it costs $500,000 to $1 million to go clear? There's not enough money in the whole world. Wow. Social engineering by whom and to what end? Well, we're talking about social engineering by Scientology to the end of world domination, so that this is a Scientology planet, because L. Ron Hubbard said, quote, someday somebody will say this is legal, by then make sure it's the Scientology org, unquote, because Hubbard believed that the orgs would become political centers. He believed that the orgs would become political centers that would rule the world. So late, well, better late than never, Monkey Paws. Glad to see you here. Pulling to go. Howdy to you. Howdy you, John. Good to see you here. Always good to see Poe here. We keep saying we're going to do a podcast, Poe. You got to call here. Go get your cop burner phone. Call me. Yeah, just give me a call. Brandana will pick up the phone if I'm not here. And so jumping off because we just can't stay on track. Oh, I like this. Hubbard confessed at the end of his life he was Lucifer. Yes. And that was coming out of his well, he said he was the beast 666 spoken of in the book of Revelation, but because the beast in his prior form, prior to the war in the heavens, was Lucifer, okay, he was Luciferian. Hubbard was coming out of that tradition where Lucifer was the bringer of light. Okay, so evolutionarily speaking, he felt himself akin to the serpent, Beelzebub, and Satan, all manifestations of promoting dropping a righteous body. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, he did. Hubbard, his son, L. Ron Hubbard Jr., said he thought he was the beast spoken of in the book of Revelation. The Scientology Money Project, it has been a literal whirlwind lately. We'll get things set up. So you're busy. Okay, I got it. What are you What are you working? Are you undercover? Are you doing something to suppress Scientology organizations? I hope so. And I've been watching your stuff. You've been busy. You're busier. Busy. Okay, so let's get back to social engineering. So Scientology, what the point I want to make, let me go back to my point. Hubbard began as a Freudian psychotherapy organization, and he was selling a book called Dianetics, and he would teach others how to become Dianetics auditors, audit out engrams so people became stated clear. That was it. There was no exteriorization. It was one life, and that was what early Dianetics was. When Hubbard got his hands on the e-meter, started having past lives show up in session, then Scientology changes. And I think because Dianetics went bankrupt twice, two different foundations, Hubbard became more paranoid. He was rejected by the American Psychiatric Association, the American Medical Association. He was scoffed at, laughed at, ridiculed as a moonbat. And so he became social engineering. Now, that term didn't exist, and that's why I'm saying it. Social engineering has been around forever. We've just formally conceptualized it in the digital age. But in as far as we can call it espionage, to extract information from others for nefarious purposes, that's what Hubbard became. That's what Scientology became. And let's move on with my slides. Scientology promises enlightenment if people rigidly and strictly adhere to and apply the sequential steps of its psychotherapeutic religious system. This rigid standardization application was codified by L. Ron Hubbard in his KSW policy of 1965. So this is very important. Scientology promises enlightenment. Now, the goal of social engineering is to give you a promise to gain your trust, to do something. So Scientology promises people enlightenment, and not just any enlightenment. It's operating Thetan, where you can leave your body at will, where you have telepathic abilities, where you're able to literally manifest great wealth, where you're able to have influence over the messed universe, the physical universe. And in Scientology success stories, people talk about, like, there was one success story where the OT talks about that he was driving his car and then he saw an accident about to happen. So he put out a beam from his physical body, a spiritual beam, and he moved the car over to prevent a deadly collision. So Scientology promises you enlightenment, the most enlightened ever, the most biggest enlightenment ever. Not the key fob to eternity type of enlightenment. No, they don't have that. But they promise you this unbelievable enlightenment. But what happens is we see you have to rigidly and strictly adhere to KSW. That means, so they're setting up a precondition. You can be enlightened only if you apply KSW. But when you look at Tom Cruise and his leaked, video where he's go to guns, and I just saw that was it. And then if you look at Matt Lauer, What happens by Tom Cruise standardly applying Scientology via KSW, keeping Scientology working, which we'll cover shortly. Don't worry. I got you. I got you. Tom Cruise became a radicalized zealot. And the fact that Scientology so radicalized Tom Cruise show that that Tom Cruise is not invulnerable, that he was completely targeted for radicalization to become a Scientology zealot, to become someone who he would never admit publicly, but he's out for world domination because he wants to put KSW in, and that's one of the supports of world domination. Um, Seems like it promises enlightenment so they can dominate creation. That's exactly it. Dominate the messed universe. And you do that by money and power. And no, that's not very Zen at all. Hey, we have a celebrity in the house, Lara FM. Glad to have you here, Lara. I want to, if you're not subscribed to Lara, she does amazing work on her lives outside with the live stream crew. I really like Lara, and look forward to seeing you soon, and maybe on LRH Way or somewhere. Tom Cruise does his own stunts. Quote from Tom Cruise, broken ankle. Yeah, you kind of missed that one. Oh, hi, adorable anarchy is in the house. Glad you showed up. Trendy Wendy, the orgs look hilariously joke empty palaces, but the orgs are fueled up, standby secure network. Yeah, ready to go infrastructure for the coming storm alongside the other treasony fascist mob. Yeah, they are. And to this point, I just want to add when I was up at Moffett Field, where the Googleplex is last week, and there's a new building there that's built to the new. It's a reinforced building. It's a government building that's reinforced. So you're not getting in that thing. And so is the Northeast Precinct here in LAPD. So it's interesting. That's a very astute observation. What the orgs have in them, and Trendy Wendy might be an agent like myself because she knows about secure network, ready to go infrastructure. Yeah, this isn't a very astute comment. And so let's get back to that. So KSW is part of the social engineering. You have to get with the program and stay with the program. And these are the 10 points Hubbard specified of KSW. In case for new Scientology watchers, you may not have seen these. And Lara FM, I'm going to read these. I'm sorry, I know you've read them 1 billion times or something. But Hubbard's, this you have to know. I'm just going to read them. Having the correct technology. Now, that means Scientology and nothing else. 2, knowing the technology. That means you study, word clear, clay demo, method 9 word clearing, on and on and on. Knowing it is correct. So that's giving your acquiescence to the fact that L. Ron Hubbard is the source and the only source of wisdom and nothing else. Even though you might say you can be a Christian and Scientologist, you have to believe that everything else is BS. Knowing is correct. Scientology is the only path to truth. 4, teaching correctly the correct technology. That means you teach L. Ron Hubbard correctly, the way L. Ron Hubbard said to teach it. What do your materials say? Clay demo it, redo the course. So this is indoctrination, teaching correctly the correct technology. That's why I had the show open with Chairman Mao to speak to the indoctrination, the psychopolitical control of people. That's not the correct thought. Applying the technology, that means you apply the technology out in life and you only live, you govern yourself according to L. Ron Hubbard's dictates. Seeing that the technology is correctly applied, this speaks to the policing aspect, internal policing aspect of Scientology. So if you think someone's squirreling it, or you see an external group like the Free Zone is not correctly applying it, you write them up, and then they're targeted for destruction, discipline, whatever kind of whatever kind of brutal discipline Scientology chooses to inflict under its own, it's a law unto itself. Now, 7, this is fair game. This is brutality, hammering out of existence incorrect technology. So if anything deviates from Hubbard's goal of world domination through his exactly specified technology, you're to hammer it out of existence. That speaks to the destruction of persons, fair game, SP declarations, RPF, all the punitive technology. You hammer out of existence incorrect technology. Okay, 8, knocking out incorrect applications. So again, if someone's incorrectly applying Scientology, then you have to knock that out. Again, force, domination, brutality. You don't care about people. People are secondary to getting the technology correct. And having the technology correctly is part of world domination. Okay, 9, closing the door on any possibility of incorrect technology. Again, you can see Hubbard's thought policing, his fascism. Any possibility of incorrect technology must be destroyed. It must be destroyed. And then closing the door on incorrect application. That means nailing it shut, destroying the source of incorrect application, eradicating it, finding it. So this is a scorched earth motherfucker policy. It's scorched earth, motherfucker. We're not taking any prisoners. It's my way or the highway, Hubbard said. You get in the way, you will be destroyed. And if we have to get kids to do this in the Sea Org, by God, we will do them because they're just trillion-year-old thetans in small bodies. So it doesn't care too bad about your childhood, too bad about everything, So Scientology's e-meter is its primary tool of social engineering. The SPTV logo's obscuring that. And I try to compensate for the logo when I do these my PowerPoints. But anyway, Scientology's e-meter is its primary tool of social engineering. The meter, along with the process, is the correct technology Hubbard wrote of interrogation, of gaining your trust, getting information, or threatening you. The meter is used to extract huge amounts of secret information and specific details on relationships, money, sin, sex, and all manner of criminal conduct. You can damn well bet they knew what Danny Masterson did on a metered sec check of that bastard. But this is the social engineering. The main tool of social engineering within Scientology is the e-meter in session. And when they're doing a sec check, they'll say, I'm not auditing you. That means it's a sec check. So this is pretty powerful stuff. Now, Hubbard wrote, the e-meter sees all, knows all, it is never wrong. As part of social engineering, they condition Scientologists to believe that the e-meter is so powerful. And this I'm going to take you to the Scientology website. I want to go there to show you so we can actually, because I like to take you, I always say that you have to do some dumpster diving. You've got to look at Scientology's websites. You have to look at it. And I want to take you to that page just to show you their main tool of social engineering. So we are there. And this is the actual Scientology webpage. So it says, oh, on the little sidebar, we're going to X out, get to know the real you. Now, that phrase means you're not the real you in your present condition because you have body thetans. So they're saying get to know the real you. This is part of social engineering. This statement, let's take apart this statement. And again, I like, comment, but get to know the real you. That's social engineering. That implies you don't know the real you. We can help you to get to know the real you. Now, who wouldn't like to? Everyone has problems of one kind or another. That's the human condition. We call it the human condition because that's the human condition. So they're first saying, look at this ad in the lower right-hand corner, get to know the real you. So Scientology is putting itself in a superior position at the outset. That's part of its psychological warfare operation. Part of its disinformation. You don't know the real you. So this is meant to induce critical self-doubt in people who are vulnerable to that type of message. So if you have uncertainties in life, they can say, we can get to know the real you so that those things will be removed. But it's meant to induce critical self-doubt. And then it says, take a free personality test. Again, Scientology is putting itself in the superior position, saying, you don't know anything. You don't even know who you are. If you take our free personality test, we are the experts on the mind. We are the experts on getting people off drugs. We're the only ones who can help at the scene of accident and everything else Tom Cruise said. So look at how this pop-up occurs on every page. And we're on a real live Scientology website. And the e-meter, I wanted to draw your attention to what Scientology says about it versus what it really does. So it says it's one-to-one auditing is assisted by use of a religious artifact. No, it's more than that. It's very much an interrogation device that helps the auditor in pre-clear locate areas of spiritual distress or travail. Okay. This religious artifact is called an electropsychometer or e-meter. And they say they break it down electropsychometer. So it's electrical, it goes into the psyche, and it's a meter. And they say it's a calibrated device used for measuring extremely low voltages and psyche. Wait a minute. Wait, stop. A calibrated device. Okay, I got that. It does calibrate itself. And I read the patent. Used for measuring extremely low voltages. Well, the meter puts voltage from one hand to the other through your body, your brain. And psyche. So they're saying that this can measure the psyche, which they're calling the human soul, spirit, or mind, or they would call it a thetan. So Hubbard's actually made the claim that they could measure the spirit through the e-meter. So the actual human spirit, which is different from the body, can be measured by the meter. I argued in my previous episode, my previous live stream, that Scientology has a contradiction in that you need a body, you need a physical body in order for how to have the meter work at all. So to say, let me get myself back on here. Okay, here's another fundamental contradiction in Scientology that I brought up my last time, but it bears repeating. Scientology's goal for its rank and file member is to go exterior, to be able to leave your body at will. However, the only way to get there is to have a body on the meter to run through all the stuff that are barriers to you leaving your body. And if Scientology posits the non-necessity of the body, it denigrates the value of the body by calling it a meat body. So you could see it gets mixed up. Scientology is confused at a fundamental basis. If exteriorization were the main goal, in fact, they said L. Ron Hubbard died because his physical body was an impediment to further research. Well, if it's that bad, you still need a body to get on the cans to realize that the body's an impediment to further spiritual research and that you need to clear out things to go exterior. Why? So that you can be exterior like an orb of ectoplasm, the thetan itself, operating the body. That would make no sense. Why, if you were exterior and you had access to all the theta universe and everything, and you had all these powers, why would you want to keep the body? So this is a muddled and confused part of it. But I said it measures resistance as far as I can tell. Xenu ate my whole. Wow. What an image. I'd like to know that story. So now we got to have a drink. You could Tell me that Xenu's up to no good. So does contradictions and are confusion, and confusion is an abuse that leads to cognitive dissidence. Yeah, it is. Um, so anyway, the meter, I showed this on a. Let me see if I have it. Let me see if I have it. Um, I can't remember where it's at. Let me just check something. Uh, this was my last thing about Scientologists and money and how you paid them all their money. Oh, I have no issues. I like this slide. I like Gus Fring. I just wanted to see if I had a slide. Oh, there's Lara. No, it's not there. But basically, I showed that the e-meter only measures one channel. It measures galvanic skin resistance, or what's called electrodermal response. But Scientology, let's jump back to their page. They're showing that it measures the human spirit. So what you're indoctrinated to do, in terms of social engineering, they get Scientologists to believe that the e-meter measures the spiritual state or change of state of a person, and is of enormous benefit to the auditor in helping the pre-clear to locate areas to be handled. The reactive mind's hidden nature requires the use of a device capable of registering its effects, a function the e-meter does accurately. So this is really interesting because, one, they talk about the reactive mind on their public-facing page. They don't talk about the e-meter being used on the OT levels to handle body thetans, which are really what you ultimately want to do. They're also saying that it can measure spiritual states of change. So the point I've made about the e-meter before is that the e-meter is agnostic. It can only measure electrodermal response, and the operator can superimpose whatever construct they want on what the meter is doing. So as I said before, if I were a Christian, I could put you on a meter, ask you if you really believe that Jesus is your Lord and Savior. If I were an atheist, I could put you on a meter and ask you if you're harboring secret thoughts of God, and so on. If I were Muslim, I could ask you, do you have any sympathy for Christians? Yeah, and so on. You get the point. The e-meter is agnostic, and the movement of the meter, that's why it's used as a lie detector. And again, I'm not much for polygraphs at all. So yeah, this is very astute. Foundational lie of meter is an infallible fact checker. Exactly. So in terms of social engineering, they have a device that they want Scientologists to think is scientific, and it not only is scientific, but it can actually get and measure spiritual activity. So it can somehow, the body's a via, and the meter can go through this via and actually measure changes of state in the thetan. But not only that, on the upper levels, the meter can find and detect body thetans, the posited metaphysical entities arising from incident 2 of OT3. So that's part of the, guys, I'm going to stop sharing this page. So let's just jump back for a minute. If you go to the Scientology page, I wanted to look at it. So that's, this is why I go in and look at Scientology's pages, because sometimes they're subject to thought. Let's see if there's anything else here on the page. No, this will tell you what the auditing session is. Auditor's code, blah, 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 beginning books. So they're not doing anything new. And that's what the thing looks like. Okay, so we're going to, okay, bye Scientology. We're going to go back to, so the meter is the foundation of social engineering for Scientologists. Now, there's an external facing part, which is OSA, which spies on people. James Smith, watching and enjoying from Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Oh, how nice to have you in. How nice to have you in. Thanks. Welcome. Seancetology. Yeah, if you go and put in electropsychometric scouting battles of the universe, you will see the first e-meter based seance And here's an interesting thing I just put in. This shows the history and evolution of e-meters. Top left, Volney Matheson's meter. The next one is Hubbard's 1958 meter. And it was called the British Mark V. And then going down to the next column, the American Blue e-meter, which was like the British Mark V, but it was an American version. And then we see the quantum meter, which was used for a very long time in the middle column bottom. And that was replaced, 2008, 2012, I don't know the year, by the one that currently in use is bottom right. That's the Ultra Mark 8 something, Quantum Ultra Mark 8. So anyway, so those kind of a history of what e-meters look like. And I always like to tell people that Volney's was 120 volts. So if you got on the wrong side of that thing, you might permanently exteriorize with no perceptions. So the other part of social engineering, and I talk about this all the time because it's so important, are the contracts. That's the ones where they force you into arbitration. But the other part of it, once the e-meter is used to extract all your secrets in regular auditing, and I just want to dwell on that for a minute. In regular auditing, when you enter the church, you sign away all your rights with 4 contracts. One of them is the church owns all of your PC folders. So when you talk about all your lies, crimes, money, problems, criminal matters, they're going to extract all those secrets. That's key part. The auditing experience is a key part of it. Now, Lara's on the show. She was SEORG. In SEORG, you have to fill out a life history of everything you've ever done, literally, including every sexual act, every time you've masturbated, when, where, with whom, what you were thinking about, every sexual act you've had, where, when, and with whom, what were you thinking about, what were you doing. So as part of their social engineering, Hubbard made the argument that confession is good, but contractually, you sign this contract on the right called agreement regarding confidential religious files. So they own all of your secret information. You'll never get to see your folders. You'll never get to read them. You'll never get to get them back. Laura DiCrescenzo sued and did get some of her PC folders back. But you can see as part of social engineering, once they get you in and you're auditing, they own your information. You have no recourse to a lawsuit. You can't talk to a lawyer. You can't sue them. You agree to let them lock you up if you go type 3. So that's another component of the social engineering. And it's been very problematic in courts where Scientology erects a wall called arbitration. And one observation I made is that the fact that they want you to sign an arbitration agreement is Scientology has a 100% certainty that it will have problems that will become either civil or criminal in nature. Scientology's Office of Special Affairs has 100% certainty that there will be problems of a civil or criminal nature. It just can't predict who, when, where, how, what. Therefore, if it does a blanket contract of every member, and every member must sign these contracts, it erects a wall of defense against anything that could happen in the future. Yep. Yeah. And Lara had been through it. Like, Lara, we got to do a live stream. We got to do a podcast sometime. I have a lot of questions to ask you about what you were going through. I used to shock all the neighbor kids with the electric farm fence. I could hear the box click. You know what's interesting is Heber Jensch grew up. His father was a polygamist. I think he had 6 wives. And Heber's father, I believe, Carl Jensch, had, I think, 34 kids. And so, and they lived on a farm, and there was a lot of farm work. And so Heber's father carried around basically a spark plug from a car with a battery. And when his kids weren't stepping up, he would zap them like a cattle prod. And that's what Heber endured from his polygamous father, who actually went to prison in, I believe, 52 or 54. I have it written down, for polygamy. So is the e-meter data measurements uploaded too? Is it networked? like all sorts of health data resides there as well as confessional stuff. Trendy Wendy, that's an excellent question. What happens is, hold on a minute. Every Scientology session is filmed. It's on video. It's digitized, but every single session is filmed. Every sec check, everything is videoed and digitized. So the device itself, say, unlike the black box in an airplane that records all the you know control inputs, commanded, in some cases uncommanded. So a black box will record the engine going on, control surfaces, movements, everything the pilots do. Say, um, the e-meter is not a black box. So no, it doesn't control, it doesn't measure, it doesn't have the memory to control every session and all the needle reads. But that's why they film everything. And that's why the auditor will write down, like, for example, if you have a phenomenon called a floating needle, it'll be listed as FM. If you have a rock slam, if you have a long fall blowdown, there's all this technical language. So the auditor will actually write that down on legal sheets of paper, the 8.5 by 14, and the session is filmed. During the actual sessions, there are case supervisors and other people watching the folders. Now, the folders are supposed to be priest penitent privilege, but OSA has the right to go on them to call for information of an incriminating nature if you left the church and they need to use your PC folder data. They certainly will use that as an attempt to blackmail or silence you or engage in character assassination. Failing that, they will just make stuff up because Hubbard said find or manufacture crimes. So your PC folders are weaponized against you, should they need to be. PC folder data is also given to Scientology Regis so they can find out what concerns you and how they can best extract more money from you as part of their social engineering campaign. So all this social engineering is to extract your data, to manipulate you to the advantage of the church, to get as much money out of you as possible, to control you to the greatest extent possible. And the meter, so anyway, I hope that answered your question. I saw a teardown of an older model. It does have a data logger, microcontroller network socket. Yes, it does, but I don't think it's like a black box. Maybe you could refine your question. I don't know what the memory would be on that. And the thing is, because Wendy, the meter used at in any organ, Larry, you can jump in. You don't have a dedicated meter for you, one person. So an auditor in an org could see 12 people in a day, 4 people in a day. So you would have to have the meter be able to say, this is Scientologist, Brandana. She's not a Scientologist, but you would have to have the ability for it to say, this is Scientologist A, this is Scientologist B, this is C. And you would have to input that so you could get that data logging material. And I'd also like to look at the patent of the older meter, because I did see the teardown. And data logging, I just don't think it data logs, because you'd have to have an e-meter for each individual Scientologist to data log. So that's a good thing. We can do a show on an e-meter because there's a lot to SP. The e-meter cannot measure or record blood pressure, breaths per minute, sleep REM, or body temp, because my watch does. That, James, I'm glad you said that. No, the e-meter is one channel, galvanic skin resistance or electrodermal activity. That is amazing, James. I'm glad you said that, because a smartwatch, Apple, can record blood pressure, breaths per minute, sleep REM, and body temp. That's amazing. No, that Scientology, because it's social engineering, control of the individual, extraction of wealth, control at every level, getting all their money and everything. It doesn't do that. It's not that sophisticated, nor do they need it. They don't need it. So let me jump back in with this. Now, oh, this is the wrong slide. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is these are the folders. That's part of the social engineering, is to control you, and you legally agree to this. So that's part of their social engineering, which is unlike, scammers can get you to sign agreements when they're engaging in social engineering. Now, on my last slide, I showed you street level surveillance, and I showed you a lot of things that the police can do, Scientology can do. For example, one of the devices I got asked about, I had a private consult with. There's these devices that mimic cell phone towers. And so they spoof your cell phone into thinking it's connecting with a cell phone tower, and then it can data log your phone calls. Pretty sinister. So, as part of Scientology's social engineering, it uses outside PI firms, some of which break the law, to data log. And based on my research, it's my opinion that, and it's a well informed opinion, that the Church of Scientology Office of Special Affairs has, through its PIs, it has all the phone numbers of the people who live stream. It has their photographs, license plates, where they live, phone numbers, and it may have, if it chose to cross the line, it may have hacked their phones. That's why I urge live streamers to just get a dedicated phone to live streaming that's clean, that you're only going to use for live streaming. So um, that's basically social engineering. Scientology's been on world domination, but first it has to gain control of its members. It has to get them to trust that Scientology is going to give them spiritual enlightenment. But to protect itself as an organization, its members must sign away all of their legal and civil rights. So it renders them powerless, and the church takes all its power. Then it must get its parishioners to trust that everything they're telling them in secrecy will be held in secrecy, when in fact that's not the case. If you leave the church, like I said, they will use your PC folder data. So there's a fair game is part of social engineering. Scientology erects enormous exit barriers. It has huge exit barriers, and those are called fair game and destroying a person utterly. Hubbard said, if possible, destroy them utterly. And he's written that down. So that's part of social engineering, is revenge if you leave us or betray us. And Hubbard is very much a believer in that we own you forever. He said if they're going to quit, let them quit quickly. Otherwise, consider that they're on board like the rest of us for the duration of the universe. So that's pretty mind-blowing. So I want to, and part of my work and what I'm doing is, and I think I'd like to put this out there and discuss it, is a recharacterization of the Church of Scientology as fundamentally a criminal social engineering operation masquerading as a religion. And that religion would get certain people who are susceptible to trust it. Of course, Scientology also needs to be a religion so that it has barriers to being criminally charged, because if it were a for-profit business, it would have been criminally charged a long time ago. And it also can erect barriers to producing evidence, as we're seeing in the current cases going on in court. Can they only catch 4G? No. In fact, let me see if I have. No, I have a frequency scanner, and let me see if it's in my. No, they can get 5G. You can get a lot of signal, and I wish I had my scanner here. Let me see. No, it's upstairs. I showed it before. No, you can get a wide range of frequencies. Well, I like that picture. That's the SEERG member who got arrested, Trace Reynolds. No, you can get 5G. You can catch frequencies. Now, when I say that, you're not a frequency scanner. You know what the frequencies of LAPD are. That's published. Motorola radios that Scientology uses. You can catch a lot of information, but you just get signal intensity and strength. That allows you to find hidden bugs, but you can use it for other reasons. on these cell towers that spoof your phone, some of those are specially configured to catch all frequencies. So this gets into electronics and espionage. And those things are out there. A lot of them come out of Israel, where a lot of good spy gear comes out of upon a time. But their files have no knowledge of your future, nor your soul, spirit, or creativity. They have nothing. Benita, that's very observant. Yeah, they do not. OSA is supposed to be able to have the power of prediction. That's why that's why they have Scientologists write, as part of social engineering, they have Scientologists write knowledge reports on each other. So, my friend Ted said that he was beginning to have doubts about L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige. If I were a Scientologist, I would write Ted up on a knowledge report. That is part of the social engineering, so the OSA can now call Ted in for an ethics, call him into ethics for a sec check at his own expense, because this is all monetized. None of this is free. If you're in the Sea Org, you don't pay, but it goes on your account. So if you ever leave, it's it goes on your freeloader debt. Oh, Sassafras, please contact me. Yeah, I wanted to contact you, and just email me. I made you a comment. It's Jeffrey, JEFFREY AUGUSTINE at Gmail. Yeah, Sassafras, we met long. I do want to get together with you. I saw you on video today, by the way, and Sassafras, what's mind blowing, Sassafras was live streaming. And if you could put your channel down there, I want to promote it. But I got to tell you, you got Sassafras, you got Janet Weiland, a local OSA heavyweight. When you were talking to her in the car, Janet's been around. She is an evil, nasty piece of work. Locally, we call her Janet from another planet. Us local SPs have been around. You actually got Janet from another planet talking to you. And Janet from another planet, Janet Weiland, you are so busted for talking to an SP live streamer. I bet Janet right now is on the meter, and they want to know, Janet, why were you talking to Sassafras? Why were you talking to a live streamer? You got someone big, and Sassafras, that was deluxe work. That was amazing. That's like having a war trophy, getting an OSA terminal. And I think Janet from another planet is in, let me see. You should give a TED talk on Scientology. Well, thank you, LVC. If I ever got invited, I would. I listen to TED talks, but I don't know how the machine works. Do I contact them? Do they contact me? Because I'd love to give a TED talk. I could, for not an ex, but someone tried to hack my GCI account right after I sent some data uplines to the SPs once. Could have been a coincidence. Yeah, it could be. But if you're a high value target, that's why you keep a firewall. You use programs to, like, long complex passwords, and there's programs you can use to have all your passwords change. And I'm going to talk about that on security another time. Okay, so Sassafras, oh wait, that's your channel. Oh, I like that. Hip hip hooray. Yeah, Sassafras, you should go watch her channel on YouTube, and I recommend that. Oh, it's at Sense of Sassafras. Yeah, she does great work. So the FCC all cool with tower spoofing. What about the other three letters? Well, no, I don't think so. I'm not endorsing this. I'm just saying it's out there. A lot of stuff that's out there you can buy, and whether it's legal or not, some technologies are legal, but you can use them in illegal ways. Some technologies only the police are supposed to own, but dirty operators can get them. So the other three letters, the alphabet soup agencies use them to great effect, and some of the some of these towers, are things that mimic towers are no bigger than this box. And I'm not going to show you what I have inside of it. And then I have more gear here. So anyway, no, it's a Wild West out there. So Kinder Kurt Weiland, I don't know unstable datum. And by the way, Kurt Weiland disappeared a long time ago. I think he's Austrian. That's Agent Sassafras. Good, you're definitely an agent. I think we're all agents. I just went to Agent Augustine because it's kind of a cool name. Agent Augustine of the Cult Investigative Agency. Sir, we found this device on you. Can you tell us about it? No, it's always funny to act official. People can fall for that easily. That's part of like acting official. Acting official. You can set up your own TED Talks. Well, I'll look into that. She wanted to talk more, but the other lady wouldn't let her. Oh, sassafras. So Janet wanted to talk more. Wow. She goes to all the local meetings in East Hollywood. She's like their PR for the interfaith groups. You see Janet over at the Oregon San Fernando Valley, which is actually North Hollywood. And so Janet does all the interfaith stuff, and it's such BS. And she's the one who got Jenny at LAX kicked out of his. Jenny at LAX, Fred, was homeless and was in transitional housing here, and he began to film Scientology some years ago. He was actually doing what the live streamers are doing now. And Janet Whelan made sure he got kicked out of his transitional home and he moved back east. So she's the witch who got Jenny at LAX leaving. So, well, thank you. It's not as hard to do. I thought it was a ultra deluxe thing, and I don't have a PhD. I'm already subbed to, the Michael Melloy show. Please post a link to your show, Michael. Welcome. Welcome. Looks like you're wearing a Dodgers hat. A Dodgers guy? Yes, that's our team. Would you wear those glasses and hat if you gave a TED Talk? I don't know. I might. I'd have to think about it. I have like really expensive, nice suits when I go to court. I would have to think about my audience. Should I? Early riser? I think it would be a great thing to do because I am Agent Augustine. I would love to see Jeffrey do a C with Pearl. She just reaches out. Love to talk to anyone else. If anyone wants to do a live stream, hit me up. I'm always available. Agent Sir. No, you don't have to call me Sir. My sister gave a TED Talk. If she could, it's not unreachable. Your sister read that. Yeah, I think I should wear the hat and glasses. Poe, Jeffrey, Nora, and Pearl Snappy could give us a world of cyber and electronic security knowledge. That would be good to do. That would be good to do and have a task force because I'm working with someone on some other projects. Love the Los Angeles Dodgers. I used to live in San Fernando Valley. Yep. I hear it. That's where I found her, the NoHo org on Burbank Boulevard. Okay, so she was at NoHo, probably doing some interfaith stuff. She's so phony, Janet from another planet. But anyways, good show. So that's why I would like the community to consider the recharacterizing Scientology, not just as a cult, but as a cult of social engineering, a cult that uses social engineering as its central construct. And also, don't forget, world domination is the real ultimate purpose of the Church of Scientology. That's what makes them so maniacal and radical, is they want to dominate the world. And yeah, I mean, Snappy is an expert, and I'd love to talk to her. Yeah, she is an expert in cyber stuff. So that would be interesting where we could compare and contrast. And that's the value of SPTV. And that's why OSA has targeted SPTV, because we can freely exchange information and we don't need billions of dollars. And we just need to talk and do live streams, compare and contrast, talk, discuss. And that's the power of SPTV plus the key fob to eternity. That's the real thing. And where I got it is a mystery. I won't tell you where it came from. It must remain a secret. And I can't tell you what's on this drive. Oh, if you only knew, Janet from another planet. If you only knew. So, anyway, glad you could drop in. So that was a presentation. Thank you, everyone who's watching. Any more questions before I go? You can put in queue. Otherwise, we're going to wrap it up here on this. We had a thunderstorm just before we hit air, and the thunderstorm blew through LA. And what about relatable research, Aaron? If they want to do a podcast, I'm very willing to do it. I like the community. I think I'm in a purgatory state right now because some of the things I do are not politically correct, apparently. But that's anyway. So thank you, Benita. I'm glad you were here for the show. Always glad to have my regular audience of suppressive persons, and I do like the definite trouble source. You're all definite trouble sources. You're all definite trouble sources, and that's good. You're all suppressive persons, and that's good in our world because we're fighting an insane multi-billion-dollar cult based on social engineering. And let me just take Sassafras's comment as we end. I was protesting all day at the Blue Building. Thought I'd take the chat on a drive, and I just happened upon them leaving the org. All I could get out of Phil Anderson, and she knew him, obviously. That is interesting. So anyway, let's talk Sassafras. Great information tonight. Thank you. Well, you're welcome, Phyllis Vance, and glad to have you. Oh, God. See, this is why this comment is so funny. We will not speculate about how Jeffrey overcame the key fob. You say you're not a Scientologist, but that is so inside that you're good. You're good. He's referring to L. Ron Hubbard once made a comment about why him. Why was he, the one he said, they're talking about the reactive mind, the bank it's called, where all your engrams are stored. And L. Ron Hubbard said, we will not discuss how it is I came to rise above the bank. It's like, so he's saying like he was like singled out to rise above the bank, but he wasn't going to discuss it, how he became the chosen one. Someone up thread made the remark that Hubbard thought he was Maitreya, the return of Buddha, and he tried to float that idea in. I think it was Spanky. No, one of the OGs in the church said she was on a program, and they were trying to float the idea among Scientologists to see if they would buy it. And Hubbard came out with his book called Hymn of Asia, which was obviously him talking about how he was Buddha. And the survey, because they rely on survey, Scientologists weren't willing to buy the Buddha thing. Ron was Buddha. No, he wasn't. He wasn't Buddha. What a charlatan, con man, social engineer, an early social engineer, but he was a pretty dangerous guy. Love Who Bell supports Danny Masterson, true. And it's interesting to watch Francois Coster get what she's up to. So anyway, well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to exit, and we're going to go on this. I'll see you next time. Appreciate you being here. So we are out of here for now, and we'll be in very good touch.